Well, hello everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
Good morning. Or evening, wherever you are.
This is an I'll Try That podcast, I guess kind of old school approach where we're actually physically in the same room.
New for me. First time.
That's true.
It's been a while since we've all been looking at each other face to face.
I'm like rubbing my eyes. I'm wondering why I haven't got a hat on.
That's true. You need to join the hat gang.
Yeah.
Did you not get the memo?
Yeah, but I brought a woolly hat with a bobble.
That's true. Yeah. Save that for later.
I look a damn fool now.
Well, it's nice, obviously, sat in the same room. We've got obviously Richard and Barbara. First one for you.
You can feel the podcasting pedigree
It's there.
that's here at the moment.
Of course, we are missing young Simmons, who's in Australia still, but we've replaced him with our greyhound mascot, Rolly.
Yeah, he's currently just lounging across the sofa, not really contributing in any way, so he's not really pulling his weight.
There's a raise of one eyebrow there. I think that's about as much of a chip in as we're going to get at this point.
So this week it's obviously we're back in. There'll be a few of these recordings coming over the next couple of weeks where we'll be here. So hopefully, we'll have remembered how to do the proper setup and the editing.
Don't make any promises.
We shall see.
And now for some Pursuit of Hoppiness.
Pursuit of Hoppiness.
Pursuit of Hoppiness. Hi there, and welcome to the I'll Try That podcast. This week we're heading back over to Asia, but we're heading to Vietnam this time. And we're going to be visiting the East West Brewing Company to try 3 of their beers. But first, I'll hand over to Joe, and he's going to be bringing us the hop topic.
Thank you, Rich.
Nice.
So this week, we're heading back up to Scotland, because we know, as it's well documented, the Scots make fantastic beer.
Too right.
And haggis.
And whiskey.
And kilts.
Oh,
But
great
not.
kilts.
But for me, not bagpipes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think they're good quality, but I hate them. I really hate them.
So we're going to talk about something we all love, though: beer.
Bingo.
It's
Bingo.
okay.
What beer are we talking about?
So we are talking about an Iron Brew
Oh,
sour beer.
Sour.
Oh, I thought you said salmon, because that would be Scottish too. But
An Iron Brew salmon beer.
Well, Iron Brew is the quintessential Scottish drink, right?
Yeah.
It's the most popular drink in Scotland. And if you look at like a heat map of like where the number one soft drinks are around, sold in each country, Iron Brew is most of them, like the UK and America. It's like Coca-Cola or Coke or Pepsi derived products that are around the world the most popular. And then you look up at Scotland and it is Iron Brew.
I like that. Oh, go on.
No, I was going to say, what I really enjoyed was I visited Scotland last year in October. It was the first time I'd been there in like a while. But all I remember was as soon as you were driving up, Iron Brew nowhere. As soon as you got over the border, Iron Brew was everywhere. And I purposely went, and I've just got to do it. I've just got to do it. So then for the next week, all I drank was Iron Brew because I think it's great.
I like that imagery of the heat map of soft drinks over the world, and then just that very distinct barrier, and then Scotland's in bright orange.
It is, yeah, quite literally. Because that's it. Like Iron Brew is a very distinctive colour, isn't it? It's that orange. It's very luminous almost, and it's quite literally like when you pour out the liquid, it is that luminous orange almost. But very distinctive taste. So this Iron Brew sour beer has been made in Edinburgh by Vault City.
Nice.
So they're a craft brewer. And it's a 5.5% ABV beer. And it was sold out almost immediately of going live ahead of its release on Burns Night.
Yeah, that's it's almost a bit obvious, isn't it? They've kind of just gone, why didn't anyone think of it before? Everyone loves Iron Brew in Scotland, so should we try making it with beer? And the result is it sells out immediately.
And they definitely sold it on the right night, Burns Night.
Yeah.
You can have your neeps and tatties and a pint of Iron Brew beer.
Yeah.
I like it.
I love a bit of haggis. Beautiful. Take it, leave it.
Yeah. Yeah, that may offend a few people, but
so the idea is that they are a sour brew company. That's what Vault City's known for. And Iron Brew's version, their Iron Brew Sour, is not the first kind of experimental beer. They're known for their kind of quite fun experimental beers. Would you boys try a cheeky Vimto version?
I would.
Oh,
I would try a cheeky Vimto.
I would try a cheeky Vimto version because I still remember being in Weatherspoons and buying pictures of cheeky Vimto before hitting Tramp's nightclub dance floor.
We mentioned Tramp's nightclub in a recent episode. This is a Worcester establishment.
Oh yes,
I think, isn't it?
It's a hallmark of Worcester.
I think there was just use of the phrase at Tramp's night out, and I didn't quite understand at first what you were talking about.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's a nightclub, okay.
Yeah, because if most tramps probably spend most nights out. You know?
Oh, that's quite. So I see what you did there.
So, and then the other beer that they've done and they're well known for is their Ribena Session Sour.
You know what? All of these beers sound great. Like you hear some collaboration sometimes, and you're like, "Oh, I don't know." Every single one of these, I would drink.
Yeah,
quite happily.
Well, I think maybe these guys are they kids at heart by any chance? Ribena, Iron Brew, Vimto.
Yeah.
What's next? Fizzy sherbets or something?
That's it. They're tapping into our childhood, aren't they?
Yeah.
Really.
All their previous ones were purple based as well.
Yeah. So now they've gone orange.
No.
So you see a change of experimental.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a quote here from Stephen Smith Hay, who's the co-founder of Vault Brewing, and he said that that we've created our Iron Brew Sour to pay homage to a drink that we truly love, and the demand is huge. I mean, that is the understatement of the century.
Yeah, to be sure.
And he says that it's a particularly special for Vault City because it's the first time they've ever been released in cans. So before they've always it's like taps or bottles perhaps, but like this is the first time they put it in cans. So actually it's just more readily available and accessible. Maybe you can make a lot more because it's cans.
Yeah.
You know what annoys me a little bit though is we have all these limited edition released beers like the Cream Egg one, this Iron Brew one and stuff like that. They just need to make more. They sell out far too quickly, and I get they're trying to build a hype and a buzz around it and all that sort of stuff. But I really want to try it.
Well, you're right, but then almost like to your point, it's kind of the obscurity and the appeal of it is that it isn't around for very long, and it's like you've got to get there. I mean, like you were on the website for the Cream Egg one, and it was sold out within a couple of minutes, wasn't it?
Second, I was on there when it was meant to come out.
Scarcity, mate, drives the price up.
That's it.
Charge whatever you want. If everyone wants it and you've only got a few, price go through the roof.
Yeah.
That's it. That's basic supply and demand, isn't it, Matthew?
You do drawing your graph. You do demand is down, supply to the sky,
and then that's where you sit your selling point, your price point,
exactly.
Your price. So anyway. I would like to try. I would have liked to have tried this Iron Brew sour. I'm not usually a sour fan, but that could be something definitely worth trying.
It's balancing out right because Iron Brew is high in sugar, right? So that would be my one concern is that it might be one or two Iron Brew sours before you need to put a lid on it.
Well, as a diabetic gentleman, maybe just a shot.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Why don't we just buy one can between us?
Yeah.
And then we can try that.
Be sorted.
So, Rich, as you said, we're going to take a trip over to East West Brewing Co. in Saigon, Vietnam.
Yes. So, as throughout the podcast, we've tried a lot of Asian beers, but they have predominantly been lagers that we've tried, very fizzy, very based, but
Quite clean, quite crisp.
quite clean. Quite
I love
crisp.
a crisp lager.
Love a crisp. lager.
Crisp. It's good with the microphones, isn't it? Crisp. Sorry, I got very excited.
You're getting full use of that pop
Yeah.
filter right now.
Oh, indeed, I am.
But the craft brewing scene over in Asia is definitely blowing up and becoming more and more predominant. I've been over to Asia a few times, not bragging. And
That's just a fact.
yeah.
Let's just remember who works in travel here.
So I've been over to Asia a few times, and I've only ever come across lagers. But my last trip, because my sister was living over there at the time, on Christmas Day, she goes, right, Rich, we're going to go out. I'll set the scene a little bit.
Please do.
Christmas Day, woke up, as you do, got really
Quite
excited.
warm, I guess.
Oh,
you
it
know,
was
like
exceptionally warm sort of thing. And my sister goes, right, we're going to go and get some stuff. I was like, that sounds good. So we go out, I go and get
Some
a
nondescript stuff.
Well,
We're already off to a good start.
Well,
you mean like things?
things, yeah,
okay.
those things. So I went and got a custom suit fitted.
Nice.
Which was
Okay.
really nice. So when I got
What custom suit? So this is like you go to a place, it's all full
tailors,
of materials.
yeah. And I got to pick. So me and my sister were doing research the night before for all the different suits. So my one's modelled off a Louis Vuitton suit.
Ooh.
So I got a nice blue checker Louis. It's not Louis Vuitton, but modelled on a Louis Vuitton suit. And it's all custom made. And I got it all measured out. And then she goes, right, we're gonna go to a tap room. I was like, what? And so she takes us round the corner, and there is this. There's a tap room, and there's all of these Vietnamese craft beers that have been brewed all up and down Vietnam, and they're all in this one place. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And so we're in there, and I'm sampling all these different IPAs, some stouts, and everything like that. And it's just absolutely phenomenal. And she goes, the fun's not going to stop there. And she takes me to East West Brewing, which was a big old. So we see all these big fancy new brewery and tap rooms that have popped up all over the UK, like Salt Brewery, Siren, and everything like that.
Yeah.
It's very reminiscent of something like that you would find in a Western place. Big old distilleries, really nice fancy restaurant.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Big gleaming vats, I
gleaming
think.
vats.
Yeah.
It's like an old industrial warehouse.
Now, a lot of beards, a lot of bearded people.
And the place...
Hats,
As many hats
lots,
as you
yeah.
could expect to see.
Everyone's in a checkered shirt. Skinny jeans.
A couple of greyhounds walking around.
Yeah.
I even saw one man in 3 hats.
Called him Johnny Three Hats.
Yeah. But the place was full of expats, so people who are either living or working over there, or full of Western
So I'm
backpackers.
thinking US, English, Australian,
all that sort of stuff. And it's this big craft brewery, and it's absolutely full packed. And then this is where I tried East West Brewing for the first time. And I don't know why I didn't bring any of it back with me. So my sister flew back finally, and I was like, "Can you bring me some Vietnamese craft brews so we can do it on there?" And she brought us East West Brewing. And we've got 3 of them to try today.
And we're very glad that she has done, actually. So what have we got here? We've got Far East IPA.
Yeah.
We've got a Saigon Rose.
Yeah. And the East West Pale Ale.
I think you were about to discover one of your own there. A Saigon Saison has got to happen at some point, doesn't it?
It has to. I'm not surprised they haven't made that already.
Whether it works or not, I have no idea. But the name alone is
But
gonna
it
work.
actually, a Saison, or the new take on a crafty Saison, is very on trend right now. So they, I'm sure there'll be one. But I mean, looking at the colours, because we poured these out into glassware for sharing. And they are the colours that you can imagine. Like the IPA is kind of quite an Albany, maybe even orangey, kind of deep colour. The pale ale is obviously a step down tone from that one, a bit lighter, but still quite orangey, Albany. And then the Saigon Rose is this, or rosé even actually, how they pronounce it, because it's got the little inflection off the E, is more kind of deeper red, I suppose. But yeah, it's an interesting. The liquid looks like it should do.
This is all genuine as well. We have to actually find adjectives of our own because the labels are in Vietnamese, so we can't steal it. We have to say what we think.
Although I'm quite hoping that someone will do a bit of a Google Translate on some of this, and as Google Translate does it, it will be particularly bad translations. So I'll read this out from the East. This is the East West Pale Ale.
Are we just discovering that I also have just been looking at the wrong side of the label?
I think so. Well, it's an opportunity for you to practice your Vietnamese, right?
Let's not get into that.
Yeah.
So they say on the label for the East West Pale Ale, with inspirations from both sides of the world, our award-winning flagship East West Pale Ale provides a perfect balance of English malts with Australian and American hops. This delightfully crisp and handcrafted ale is the toast of Saigon.
And that award you mentioned, I believe the World Beer Awards 2018, 2019 won a bronze, I think. I think each of them were nominated, having had a look at... having had a look. And I think that was the one that won rather than was nominated.
So the Pale Ale won the bronze.
The bronze, yeah.
So I was trying to dig in a little bit more about, the craft, because you think craft beer, obviously it's huge around the world. Obviously we've got on a spotlight right now on Vietnam.
Yeah.
And I'm amazed to see actually how sophisticated, not that I wouldn't think that they would be sophisticated for any other reasons other than when you think craft beer, you think Western nations, right? Whereas actually, of course, it makes perfect sense that there's going to be, breweries and craft brewers all around the world with a fantastic level of sophistication for how they deliver this. So I was intrigued because Vietnam has got actually a very long-standing history with beer.
Okay.
So So it's, Vietnam, with their reputation for beer, there's a bit of an urban legend that when Vietnamese draft beer arrived in the late 1800s, patrons were so wild that bartenders had to protect themselves by collecting money from inside tiger cages.
Wait, what?
So people wanted beer so badly.
Draft beer.
The bartender had to lock himself in a tiger. Was the tiger still in there because it was less dangerous to be with the tiger than it was to be with the people wanting the beer?
I'd like to think that, but I'm sure they removed the tigers and they just happened to be tiger cages that they were inside. So like the bartender was serving or collecting money from inside these empty cages.
It's really not a complicated concept, but I don't understand.
So it was like mobs of people wanted beer that badly. The bartender was serving.
Had to basically be behind bars to
Behind
protect
bars.
it.
He's basically like a bank teller.
Right.
Put himself behind his thing so that you can't
yeah.
get to hit the bartender when he's collecting money.
Yeah.
I just like people kept their money in cages.
It's the safest place.
It's really not.
Yeah.
No, tigers are the bankers of the Vietnam.
Right. Okay. Oh, I understand now.
So, to give more context to this as well, so Vietnam actually drinks about 40 billion litres each year of beer, which ranks second in Asia, just behind Korea. But until recently, most of those 40 billion litres were almost definitively Bio Hoi, Vietnam's iconic featherweight lager, cheap, easygoing, available on every fluorescent street corner, because I'm sure Vietnam's very colourful, you can attest to that.
Yeah.
And with a flavour profile that you can count on one finger. But it obviously seems that craft is turning the tide in Vietnam.
I think what I really liked about when I was in Vietnam and drinking beer out there, because it is so hot, nothing beats an ice cold beer on a hot day. So you would sit in these little cafes, and what they would do is they would stick a crate of beer next to your table, and then you would just help yourself to the beer sort of thing, and then they would charge you
How much
for
you had.
how much you'd had out thing. But because it's incredibly hot out there, so what they would do, you would have massive chunks of ice in your beer glass that you put. So we're talking like a fist-sized bit of ice in your beer glass, and that's how you drink the beer. So it is ever so slightly watered down, but that's how they keep their beer cool, and that's how you're meant to drink it.
So, and that's that traditional lager beer that you're saying you're having.
Yeah.
Okay.
So not the craft stuff. No, this was
Whereas the craft, as you painted that picture before, it's all coming out of tap rooms.
Oh, yeah,
It's that kind of tap room
yeah.
experience as you would walk into any tap room.
Yes,
It's that
yeah.
kind of experience. So I'm actually intrigued to know a bit more about why craft beer has got, and when craft beer really started to kind of hit home in Vietnam. But Matt, have you got kind of a thought
I
on
will
that?
tell you, Joe. since you want it so desperately. Early 2000s, basically.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier on about the high or the prominence of expats, in Vietnam. Early 2000s. So, I mean, it took a while to bed in. Like the local microbreweries that you mentioned were sort of starting to get founded 2015-ish.
Okay. That's quite a gap, like 15 years. Over decade,
although I suppose it wasn't. You think back, I mentioned the early 2000s. I mean, I didn't have not quite had such a knowledge of craft beers by that point. I was quite young by that point as well. But what actually started the kind of influence over there was Czech imports. Arriving in Saigon, and that just got them trying things from from Europe, basically. And I mean, I don't think of Czech beers necessarily as craft ones. You think of the Pilsner, don't you,
That's it,
typically speaking.
Well, we did Star Parman recently, and
Yeah.
the history behind Pilsner
Yeah.
and Czech Republic beers is definitely in that age-old.
But that, it seems, was the catalyst in the early 2000s, the Czech beers, which I dare say were really popular with the expats, that sort of gave it the impetus, because you'd imagine if it just sort of made its way out there over on its own, these Czech beers, that they might not get the uptake. But because there were probably those expats over there, I mean, we're speculating a little bit here, but that explained their initial popularity that then sort of morphed and evolved into the craft scene.
Well, now you've mentioned Czech imports, and it doesn't obviously specify specifically, it's different types of Pilsners coming over, which I'm sure will be part of it. But as imports, it could also mean things like Czech hops. It could mean like raw ingredients coming over, which of course, craft beers like put up on a pedestal, how important just trialing and having, but
Getting the right raw materials.
getting the right and trying different raw ingredients. So maybe that's also had something to play here.
So what I was going to dive into a little bit more about the history, but a bit more of the history about the East West Brewing Company itself. So this started, it was about 10 years or so ago that they, it was a chap named Locke. I'm going to really apologise if I once again butcher the pronunciation of these names.
Back yourself, mate. You're gonna nail it.
You've got this,
It was a gentleman called Locke Trung, was born in Vietnam, but then raised and educated in the US. And he met a California native called Steve Gutierrez. I can't pronounce that.
Gutierrez.
Yeah, Gutierrez.
Steve Gutierrez. And they both attended university, and they kind of both had a liking for craft beers and everything like that. Locke Trung then went back to Vietnam because he had an idea that involved yogurt. It didn't really go into much more detail.
Look, we've all had them, let's be honest.
There was basically a gap in the market with something to do with yogurt. So he phoned up his friend Steve and was like, I've got an idea about yogurt. But
Steve was like, say no more.
Yeah.
Have we done a bit of digging it? Is it still a mystery as to what
It's
the
still a
yogurt
mystery,
product is?
but there was something to do with yogurt in Vietnam, and there was an opportunity. And that never really took off.
I'm still waiting for the punchline here, but apparently this is true.
But yeah, which I quite like. That there was an idea.
He went to Mr. Gutierrez and said, right, come on now, right, yogurt, Vietnam. You know where I'm going with this, right?
Step 1, yogurt. Step 2, Vietnam. Step 3,
Profits.
But yes, this yogurt plan never materialised and never kind of blew up. But in the end,
It was a damn shame.
They did start talking about craft brewery, and this is where East West Brewing kind of born from there. And there was a great statement that was Mr. Gutierrez put, it's so much better to launch a brewing together than a yogurt shop.
Yeah, to be fair, that's a lot. Yeah, I would have a lot more fun. I mean, don't get me wrong.
That is definite proof, though, that just because you have what might not turn out to be the greatest idea to start off with, you should probably still persevere.
Yeah, but also as well, like I guess like that. There is a big leap between yogurt and brewing. I'm not denying that. But actually, the idea of culturing, growing something, fermenting, there's a bit of cross idea here, and maybe might have been some equipment that he might have purchased for his yogurt enterprise, which could be transitioned into the brewing world.
But I think it's a really, really East West Brewing feels like a good company. I've visited the brewery myself, and it's a really nice atmosphere. They employ up to 30 people, because they've got a restaurant there, predominantly all locals from the Vietnamese region. And one of the people, his name is Trung Da. Is currently training to be the first master brewer in Vietnam. So he'll be the first Vietnamese master brewer in Vietnam, which would be...
That's a bit of an accolade, isn't it?
An absolute massive accolade sort of thing. And kind of that's just putting craft brewing in Vietnam on the map and kind of pushing it forward.
Well, it sounds like, there's been a bit of a spearhead, right? We're talking about different times of, there's always been a brewing culture in Vietnam and a bit of drive and a push, and there's always been a lot of beer, quite literally drunk. 40 billion litres is no small amount. And then now we've got this next resurgence of craft beer, and that's where that's going and growing. So it does feel like Vietnam is like a kind of a growing space. And this next level of the first master brewer from Vietnam, just kind of then rounding that off with the validation. And, the kind of the substance behind, what's actually happening on the ground. I mean, it's, of course, I think a bit, further behind some of the other nations, but it just means that they are benefiting from other countries and where they've gone. And as we've said, I think openly on this, that the craft brewing industry as a whole seems to be quite collaborative. Yeah. It sounds like they're getting some pointers, some input as well as doing it in a very Vietnamese craft way.
Oh, yeah.
Testament to the man himself. Should we talk about the stuff in the glass?
Oh, that's exactly what I was going to say. We should probably talk about the taste.
Sorry, Brad.
I was going to start with the Saigon Rose or Rosé. You poured that out, Rich, before I even sort of had a good look at it. I think what I said to you, was like, it's going to be grapefruity. It isn't, but it's a very interesting drop. I don't know why the colour led me down this route, but I thought it was going to be really sweet. But actually, I'm not getting too much sweetness at all. It's that kind of I do get the raspberry, which is apparently in there as well. But
I can show there is raspberry in there.
Yeah.
Look at the bottom. There's a lot of raspberry
There's sediment. Isn't there?
at the bottom of there.
I'm always encouraged when I see sediment because I sort of like, to me that's one of those little nods to it's got like genuinely got stuff in it.
But yeah, I mean they said the aroma is fresh berries. Yeah, I mean it's quite literally got berries in it. Very floral. It's only 3% ABV.
Yeah.
So that was quite interesting. So almost like I guess a kind of a different take on a light beer, isn't it?
I can't help but think that is a little bit also to kind of almost make it a little bit more manageable when you are in a hotter climate, right?
Yeah, well, you're in saying that because the pale ale is 6% and the IPA is 6.7%.
Yeah.
So they're that more traditional ABV levels for the beers that they are.
Put my hands up about being totally led by the awards and the plaudits that it got, but that East West Pale I think is really nice.
Yeah,
really nice.
Absolutely.
Really
I mean,
tested.
out of the two, if I'm comparing the ales, I'm more leaning towards the IPA actually, just because it's more kind of a.
How dare you?
It's okay to have different opinions.
We
on
can
this.
still be friends, actually, can't we?
No. But I quite enjoyed it. Like this, it's got that more maltiness, and I think I lean more towards the maltiness and sides when I'm looking for like kind of an ale. The pale ale is delicious. Obviously, it's an award winner as well, so that kind of goes without saying that it tastes good. But
I don't even need to argue my case.
No, I feel for me like actually I quite enjoy the more kind of passion fruit, harder hitting that you get with the IPA. Actually, a bit more full of flavour for me.
I think I've genuinely enjoyed all three of these beers. I think it's a good cross section of what they have to offer,